By the end of this lesson, you should be able to write an equation of a line given its slope and a point on the line. Okay, so here's what you need to write a line. You need two things. If you don't have these two things, you can't write a line. You need to know the slope, and you also need a point. In other words, an ordered pair. The other thing you need is a formula to plug those two things in. So you can either use the slope-intercept form of the formula or the point-slope form. So remember, the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, or you can use the point-slope form, which is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Whichever one works best for you or you feel most comfortable with in solving. I know when I was growing up, we couldn't use our notes on the test, so it was just much easier for me to remember y equals mx plus b. So I always used that one, but you know what? Both of them work fine. I wouldn't say that one is better than the other. It's up to you to determine that, but just know that you're going to need to use one or the other. Okay, so here's how to plug in those values. So when you're given the slope and you're given a point, you're going to have to plug them into either one of those two formulas that we talked about. If you decide to use the slope-intercept form, whatever your y value is, you're going to plug it in y's place. Whatever your slope is, you're going to plug it in m's place. Whatever your x value is of your ordered pair, you're going to plug it into x's place. And with this formula, you don't know the y-intercept. So that is what you're going to be solving for in this case when you're using the y equals mx plus b formula. Now with the point slope form, you have to remember, never ever plug any values into the x and y that are by themselves. Okay, always remember to leave those alone. What you're going to do is you're going to plug your given ordered pair, the x and y, you're going to plug them into the sub 1 points. So the y of your ordered pair, you're going to plug it into the y sub 1's place. The x value of your ordered pair, you're going to plug it into x sub 1's place. And of course, m, you're going to remove the m and replace whatever slope you were given into that place. But as I stated before, do not plug any values into the x and y by themselves. You will only plug your values into the sub 1 points. Okay. Okay, so now that we got all that important information out of the way, let's go ahead and solve a problem. Here we're asked, it says to write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form with the given slope that contains the given point. So our given slope is -2, because you see here italicized m represents your slope. We were also given an ordered pair. Our ordered pair is 5, 8. So I'm going to we're going to write this equation in both forms, and that way, for those of you viewers who prefer the y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept formula, you can see how that works out. And then for those of you who prefer the point-slope formula, you'll also be able to see how they work, and looking at the comparison between both methods, you can begin to determine which method you like best. So let's go ahead and get started. So using the first y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form, We're going to remove the y and replace it with what? What is our y value? Yes, our y value is 8. So we're going to remove the y and replace it with 8. We're going to remove m and replace it with what? What are we going to replace it with? Well, if you go up top here, you were given that m equals -2. So you got it. We're going to remove m and replace it with -2. Next, we're going to remove x and replace it with what? Well, if we go up here to our ordered pair, what number is in x's place? Yes, you got it, the 5. So we're going to remove the x and replace it with 5. Now remember, if you're using this formula, you will never know what b is. That is the whole reason for you plugging it in, so that you can solve for b and find out what b is. So plugging in all the values we know, it's going to look like so. And again, we're doing this because we want to know what b is. So let's go ahead and first multiply, combining -2 times +5 is going to give me -10. One last step to getting b all by itself. Right now, -10 is on the side with b. We need to get rid of that -10. To do that, we have to do the opposite. The opposite of -10 is +10. So let's go ahead and add 10 to both sides. When we add 10 to the 8 that's on the left side, we're going to wind up with 18 on that side. So therefore, b equals 18. And now we have everything we need to write our line. So to write it in slope-intercept form of y equals mx plus b, it would be y equals, we already know our slope is -2, so it would be y equals -2. Always put an x behind your slope, so -2x. We just found out b is 18, so go ahead and put it in the back. And so your line in slope-intercept form is y equals -2x plus 18. Now, for those of you who prefer the point slope formula, let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So again, we are given a slope of -2, so we're going to remove m and replace it with -2. Our x value is 5, so remember we plug our ordered pair into the sub 1 points. So let's go ahead and find x sub 1 and replace it with 5. Let's find y sub 1. Since you have an 8 in y's place, y sub 1 would be 8. So once we plug in those given values, it's going to look like so. Let's go ahead and use the distributive property on the right side. We want to distribute that -2. So we have -2 times x is -2x. -2 times -5 is +10. One last step to getting y all by itself. Yes, did you see that? I need to get rid of this -8 here, and then I'll have y by itself. How do you get rid of a -8? You got it. I have to do the opposite. The opposite of -8 is +8. So I'm going to add 8 to each side. And when I add 8 to the right side, I have 10 already over there. Add 8 to that. That's going to give me 18. And there you have your line in slope-intercept form, y equals -2x plus 18. Now notice when you are solving using the point slope form, it gives you your entire line once you solve for y. When you're using the slope-intercept form, it only tells you what b is, and then you have to put everything together of the given information that you were given in order to write your line. But yes, the point slope form, once you go through the process, it will give you your line in the end. And so notice when you compare the two methods, we got the same exact line of y equals negative 2x plus 18. And there you have it. Now, what if we were asked to write that in standard form? Because right now, our answer is in slope-intercept form. So recall standard form is where x is first, then y, and then the constant, the number, is by itself on the right side. So all we have to do to get this in standard form is to move the negative 2x from the right side over to the left side. And to do that, we have to do the opposite. So the opposite of negative 2x is positive 2x. So when we add 2x to each side, our equation is then in standard form, which is 2x plus y equals 18. And at this point, we are done, because notice the coefficient of x, it is not a fraction and it is not a negative. So it is fine. That is the correct standard form of an equation.